Do the Bruins and Chip Kelly go after Dillon Gabriel in the portal or another quarterback, or do they stick with Ethan Garbers and Kylan Schley? And Mick Cronin provides injury updates for the Villanova game on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making the show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, become it every day, because a lot of it will be talking about the craziness that is the portal, coaching carousel, everything that's happening all around the world of college athletics. And hey, maybe the NCAA might actually allow universities to directly pay their athletes. Not a topic in today's show, but we'll talk about that in the future. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's get to it, right? Let's get to it. I think the biggest name QB-wise, in my opinion, for the portal quarterbacks is Dillon Gabriel. Now, for UCLA, you've got the likes of a relationship that was already courted a couple years ago. You were already spurned when one of his coaches from Central Florida went to Oklahoma. Caleb Williams left to go to SC. At the last minute, with DTR returning to UCLA, you had Gabriel decommitting from the Bruins and playing the last two seasons in Norman, Oklahoma, where he then now is in the transfer portal. The big question surrounding Chip Kelly, that if he wants to keep his job for more than a tumultuous Big Ten inaugural season in 2024, beyond that season, and get himself off the hot seat, it's largely going to have to do with a much improved offense. Considering your defensive coordinator is gone, you want to bank on having a good offensive scheme to go against some pretty stout defenses in the Big Ten when the Bruins play like an Iowa or when you play some big-name teams down the line in future seasons. Dillon Gabriel is that perfect stopgap quarterback potentially for Chip Kelly, where if he brings in someone like a Carson Gordon as a freshman to maybe develop after a year, maybe Justin Martin certainly just isn't ready, or maybe the Bruins want to have some backup if you consider Schley and Garbers have another year. Now, you bring in somebody like a Dillon Gabriel, those guys probably, depending on their academics and if they can graduate in time or depending if they're going to grad transfer, because both those guys have already transferred once, they would have to get everything in order to transfer again. I think the Bruins, with a one-year stopgap, it would be perfect to have Gabriel. I know he already changed the course potentially of recent UCLA football history and Chip Kelly with DTR staying and Gabriel, who could have given UCLA multiple seasons as opposed to just the one he would provide if he comes in 2024. The lucrative opportunity of playing in Big Ten would be something to look at. The one thing I'll hesitate, though, is right before the podcast, you had Pete Thamel reporting about the likes that he is literally visiting Oregon, who would be the next stopgap QB to be in line to start at Oregon following Bo Nix, a Heisman candidate, where Gabriel could be in Eugene next year. Although the recent portal announcement from Marr has him maybe linked to Oregon, potentially, considering he already committed there, and the Bruins are in the mix. Even with their recent attempt to get in the first time, Bro Report released the article talking about this, saying, hey, they're in it. But as soon as he went in the portal, I said, hey, the Bruins should go after Gabriel. In his most recent season, 30 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, nearly a 70% completion percentage, 3,600 yards, right? And if he played in the bowl game, he would account for probably 4,000 passing yards this year. Running the football, Dillon Gabriel accounted for 373 rushing yards, about 4 yards a pop, and led his team in rushing touchdowns, 12 this season for the Sooners, more than his other top two backs on the team, and might fit the system better than all three current UCLA quarterbacks combined for a Chip Kelly quarterback, right? When it comes to someone who can maneuver like a DTR, he is a lefty, so that would change the way plays maneuver. That's not too much of a fix, I would think, for Chip Kelly. but he does have that dual threat ability, can throw it down the field, can run the football, tuck it and run it, where all the three UCLA quarterbacks in 23, Garbers, Moore, Schlee, none of those quarterbacks had that ability. They have different intangible skills, all unique to those guys individually, but they don't bring what Dillon Gabriel has in terms of the dynamic dual threat ability. And while they all can be valuable in one way, the Bruins could go Garbers and Schlee next year in 24, because at the current recording of this podcast, nothing has been reported about the future of the UCLA quarterback situation. It's who's going to play in the bowl game is the big question, with that looming very quickly in the LA Bowl at SoFi against Boise State. I look towards the future. Do you go after Gabriel? Now, over future episodes, I'll look a little bit deeper into other names. Of course, DJU is someone who's back in the portal. Is that someone who could come back to SoCal? Although reading and looking, he might be linked to ACC schools. Riley Leonard might be the latest ACC quarterback to go to Notre Dame, with him visiting that pretty soon, I think. And maybe you court Grayson McCall, which was a phone call last year. Maybe the Bruins go after Coastal Carolina quarterback Grayson McCall, who could be that dual threat quarterback, making that step up into the Power 5, Power 4 conference football in the next season. And you get Grayson McCall at a much cheaper price, right? What's the big thing? Matt Rule from Nebraska was talking about a quarterback NIL-wise is $1 to $2 million. So you have to think about what UCLA and all the donors, all the funding that has to go into one, courting the right players, having the right funds to do that, everybody pulling their funds for collectives to go towards Mick Cronin and the Bruins men's basketball program. Where's the season ticket revenue coming? And most people would rather spend their money to get rid of Chip Kelly than to fund any potential revival of the UCLA program under his watch. Now, I think the team is a long way, maybe not a long way, but still a ways away from just one Dillon Gabriel commit to being a true contender immediately in Big Ten play. I think there's obviously more things needed to happen, including fortifying the offensive line, replenishing the defensive talent that'll be gone, whether it's the coaching staff led by defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn leaving, or the talent that's going to leave just because they're NFL ready, led by Latu of all places, and the longtime senior DBs, which we'll touch on the end of the episode, that are also leaving a thin spot in the roster defensively, which already wasn't necessarily a strength for this year's UCLA team, but they're good this year. Still not the strength. I think Gabriel is a good addition. He's thrown for thousands of yards, billions of touchdowns, run for a lot from Central Florida to Oklahoma. Can this be the year where the Bruins can get him with a lighter Big Ten schedule in 2024, in my opinion, some marquee non-conference games, or a marquee non-conference game at LSU, I should say. And then you've got some big-time games in the Big Ten where the Bruins, with the right constructed roster, guessing right and maneuvering right in the portal, could be a sneaky dark horse again if everything goes right in the Big Ten this year, in the next season, where there's no divisions. It'll just be the top two teams battling for a spot in the conference championship. UCLA certainly has the capability of constructing a roster that can get us excited. It'll just be tough with a couple of decommits. You've got guys heading into the portal and a quarterback question that was already a question coming into 2023, and now it might be a question going into the next year. Now, if they come home and say, hey, it's going to be Garbers, it'll be Schlee, kind of a dual quarterback system of sorts, mixed in with developing a young quarterback, whether that's Martin, whether that is an incoming freshman QB, if Kelly wants to go flip someone else at the last second, even though they've got Gordon and everything coming in. What does that look like for the Bruins as they look for life post Dante Moore, who is supposed to be the future QB? I think Gabriel's an option, but I'll go over more options throughout the portal season as visits are being made, NIL offers are being made, and we find out what's it looking like for Garbers and Schlee in the next season. And that might not even be decided until middle of January. So this will be a fun topic to come. I think Gabriel must be at the top of the list. He fits the Chip Kelly system, dual threat ability to throw more than anything UCLA has on this roster, in my perspective, as a complete Chip Kelly-esque player for what the offense they try to run. Now, What's it looking like injury-wise for the men's basketball team? Well, we'll talk about that next because Mick Cronin talked to the media, talked about what he didn't like, some things that I think we agree on that are very obvious, like rebounding and more, next on Locked On UCLA as they prepare to play Villanova. Yeah, the regular season might be done, but UCLA football, they still got one more game in the 2023 season, the LA Bowl. Hey, check this out. A close game. We get to see what the Bruins look like in SoFi. Isn't that what we always wanted? So that's why you should go to Game Time right now. I just looked at prices for the LA Bowl. Flash deal prices, got that ticket as low as $44 for a bowl game. It's right in their backyard, a perfect early holiday gift. No need for Secret Santa or a white elephant gift here. No, get right in it with the likes of Game Time because you don't need to worry about buying tickets to your next big event. The next one's the LA Bowl. Go get some for UCLA football, a killer last-minute deal. That's a killer deal right now with Game Time. All you've got to do is you can see where you're sitting with the flash zone deals, everything, and it gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account. Redeemable code is LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, going into the second segment for Locked On UCLA, the men's basketball team preparing to take on Nova after more than a week off. Mick Cronin back from illness, still clearly visibly ill and coughing, but he is able to get back to work. For UCLA, after their game against UC Riverside, where he missed due to sickness, Darren Savino had to coach, and Mick Cronin knew his absence was big as the Bruins had Lazar Stefanovic struggle with foul trouble. Of course, I talked in the most recent Locked On UCLA episode, if you want to hear about that, Dembona getting in some severe foul trouble, fouling out when he was plus 17 in about 13 and a half minutes. Where did I mention that? I mentioned that in that episode. What was one of the first things Mick Cronin talked about in the media? Dembona staying out of foul trouble, taking dumb fouls that aren't contesting at the rim, blocking a shot, which many of the Bruins have had kind of questionable foul calls. Not the officiating, but what are they doing? Like young player mistakes that are happening in games, breakdowns. So the big thing is Bona staying on the floor so he can help with his athleticism and the rebounding. Because if Bona can't stay on the floor, the Bruins can't effectively run a smaller lineup. Mick Cronin alluded to this about how you can't run a small ball lineup even with a die in there. So you have a 7-footer and then a bunch of smalls with Feebley running as the 4, which can be a dynamic athletic team for the 1 through 4. If you have Andrews, you got Matt, you got a very athletic team with a small ball lineup that could probably play a lot better defense other than Mata out there if Bona's not on the floor. Now, if you got Bona running the small ball 5, Feebley running the 4, Lazar at the 3, a mixture of Mack and McClendon and then Andrews, you can have an athletic, scrappy 5 playing defense that can learn to go get rebounds. But you're not going to get rebounds, one, if Bona's off the floor. That's just not going to happen. They struggle already. Feebley's got to earn more minutes. I want him to get as many minutes as possible, whatever it looks like, because he is fun to watch do many things. Except, hey, that's what the Bruins got to learn. But the big thing is injury updates. Berke is out for the Nova game. As I promised, Berke listed out. You can see maybe Ben Bulge, Bro Report. Cronin already confirming, hey, Berke is out. Mack is day-to-day. So I wonder if UCLA's starting lineup might look like this against Nova, that they'll go with Andrews, you go with Will McClendon, and then you go with Lazar. You've got Bona and Mata, and then you might see a lot more of Kenny Nuba. You might even see some Devin Williams in this Villanova game if the Bruins need to go to it, and possibly, quite possibly, even more Brandon Williams in this game. At some point, you're just throwing out names. You're like, that's a freshman. Is there anybody? Yes, there are a bazillion freshmen on this roster if you've already forgotten about this team, and it'll be a unique game. I don't really know what to make of this Villanova game specifically. This isn't the the Jay Wright coach Villanova squad. This isn't the best UCLA will be. They won't be peaking in December. It's practice time. It's growing. It's instilling your offseason principles during a longer break. And then you got a week off and another longer break to go prepare to play Ohio State. A couple of busy weeks when it comes to the holiday season finals. And then you've got conference play before the start of the new year. And UCLA hopefully has everything they like, or most of everything they like, because now the number one team in the country is Arizona. SC's only getting to full strength, and the Bruins are dealing with Berke, who is yet to get his feet settled underneath him in his true freshman campaign. And then you've got the likes of, hey, Mack's a little banged up. He's someone that's averaging, in a good day, 15 to 17 a game, and the Bruins need that scoring. Where is it going to come against with Villanova if he's not healthy enough to be a full go? Now, he looks like one of those tougher, old-school backcourt guards where he sits there. He's probably going to get out there and grind. If he's healthy enough, he's going to go out there and put a performance. It might not be efficient. It might not be the best Sebastian Mack performance, but he seems like one of those kids where if he's just healthy enough and he gets the clearance, he's going to put out and put points, right? He's going to go out and make it happen. But the thing is, UCLA needs to be able to defend. And do you sacrifice the scoring and let McClendon get out there defensively, be one of the more valuable rebounders, be one of the more valuable defenders, and with his ability to knock down a couple more threes, can that allow the Bruins to rest Sebastian Mack a little bit more in the Nova game so he can be healthier down the season with what could be a hopefully not recurring toe injury that's been bugging him a little bit. Now, the introduction of this hybrid zone, Mick Cronin's teased a little bit. We'll wait to see when that comes out. Is it against Villanova? Is it Ohio State? Is this team ever going to show the zone? He maybe wants to dangle out there for some game tape and then break it out when the Bruins need it and get 5 steals in a 2-minute stretch to win a game. I don't know. But the Bruins aren't there yet because they need a rebound. Mick Cronin echoed that. Less breakdowns, whether it's mental breakdowns offensively or defensively. Another one of the topics was guarding the three-point line. Again, Riverside hit 14 threes, and generally when a team's knocking down threes as crazy as they were in the second half, a large portion of that game, you're not going to win many games when teams are knocking threes, like Marquette did in the second half against the Bruins. You let teams go on big runs. Not many times are you going to win those games against good teams down the stretch in crunch time, or when you go to the McHale Center or a sold-out Galen Center. Not that the McHale Center won't be sold out. We just assume that already. You're not going to win these true road games, which is why, not that you won't, but you need to be better, much better by the time those games comes around, or else you will not. At this stage, UCLA is going to lose both those games. They'll compete. They're not going to win it based on this iteration. Now, when they can all find a way to get their roles, they gel, they play a little smoother, consistently. You mix a Will McClendon three-point barrage with steady Dylan Andrews play, Mack getting buckets efficiently, Bona staying out of foul trouble, Berke doing something, Lazar hitting threes, rebounds being grabbed. Heck, maybe even Mata can get some easy buckets close to the hoop and have some open assists. The Bruins can become a dangerous team come March. But at the moment, a little bit of injuries, a little bit of sickness of the coaching staff, and the development's taken a little bit of a halt right now. And that might be on display in the Nova game with it might be a very frustrating game if UCLA doesn't win that, considering what Nova's been doing recently. It's key to get that road win so you can boost that net ranking, which is very early. It's probably not going to be what UCLA has at the end of the season, most likely not. But you got to boost that to improve your seeding. Joe Lenardi updated the bracketology, his early season bracketology. I always like looking at that. UCLA's an 8 seed. You'd played Northwestern, who just took down Purdue, and but a win would get you against number 1 Kansas, right? A mixture of last year's tournament, this year's missed opportunity in the Maui Invitational. That's your first 2 games. Boo Buie and Kansas with Hunter Dickinson, if your bigs aren't ready. That's, of course, all in La La Land's looking projections too far ahead. That's what UCLA is looking for in a year where it's wide open in the tournament. You've got to get a break in the bracket. And the Bruins must get some wins, develop in time for all that to happen. All right, now let's get that dub against Nova. To wrap up, we're going back to UCLA football in this episode. And, hey, I think one more player did go in the portal. It's 6 now. I didn't really say the name, but we'll talk about what UCLA's offered a little bit, what they're looking for, And who are the 6 players in the portal right now for the Bruins at the moment? Could get more. Maybe someone decides to change their mind and come back. Highly unlikely. Next on Locked On UCLA. All right, so the Bruins are portal shopping. Maybe some people are leaving. And you're a small business, and you're looking to get that new hire because it feels like, hey, there's lots of top-tier candidates possible out there to interview, whether you're replacing a quarterback, getting a new one, maybe replacing your defensive coordinator, or you're just trying, as a small business, get the right professional for your team. Well, LinkedIn Jobs helps you do that faster and for free. They've got tools where it's not just a job board. It's the best place to hire with a vast network of over 1 billion professionals. And you might not have time to have the resources to hire. The process is intuitive with LinkedIn Jobs because the new features help you write job descriptions that make the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Wrapping up Locked On UCLA today, and hey, let's get to it right now, right? The Bruins have currently 6 players in the portal. Let's name them fairly quickly, right? All right, you've got in order, well, maybe not in order, but you've got Carson Ryan, 6'4" tight end, who's listed on the UCLA website as a running back, but he's used as a tight end, 2 years of eligibility. Probably someone that was going to develop into a nice tight end option for the Bruins over the next few seasons, but that's just not the case right now. Even though Maliki Matavau's in that room as well, Carson Ryan, I did like his game. He's someone that's gone. Cam Brown, someone who had a big touchdown pass. He had some big moments, but a decreased role in 2023. And the 6'1" grad transfer who is going to leave, came over from Texas A&M, leaving, and hopefully finds greener pasture somewhere else. I wish the Bruins used more of him this year. That's one of the another skill position that's leaving alongside Keegan Jones, because you've got Carson Steele and Harden, who are guys that are just going to take the rock. Jones, a hybrid receiver running back that I think should have gotten more carries or more touches at least, help UCLA win that Washington State game early in the season, because a dynamic player could have returned a little more. He is someone who only had 8 catches and 77 yards. Probably one of the biggest travesties from this season. One of the reasons why we want to yell out the 3 words most Bruin fans so desperately want to hear, blank, blank, blank. And I think the last 2 words are Chip Kelly, and it's certainly not higher, but it rhymes with that. Keegan Jones is, man, he is going to blow up next year, I think, for somebody else, if used correctly or just used at all. He will blow up. Absolutely. Dante Moore, that's self-explanatory, right? 6'3", sophomore quarterback, highest rated Bruins quarterback to come in, and didn't necessarily bring in all the necessary tools to succeed as a freshman, but he is getting courted, whether it be the rumors to back to Eugene, whether it's going to back to the Midwest, going to a Michigan State to combine with Jonathan Smith, although Jonathan Smith might want to go with one of his 2 quarterbacks from Oregon State formerly, who are in the portal now. So I'm not sure if Dante will be at Sparty next year. Or maybe I was reading and looking that Dante Moore might actually go to the likes of he might go into Florida State. We'll see. We'll see what happens if he goes down south on the opposite coast. And then you've got the likes of Jake Wiley, a transfer from Colorado, and couldn't beat out a couple of guys for a starting nod for UCLA. Jake Wiley on a much maligned line that maybe wasn't as bad as I'd like it to. I probably made it seem this year, but certainly the Bruins could not pass block. I'm reading some stats right now. 42 sacks given up out of the 130 FBS teams. The Bruins were 122. So about the 9th worst team in the country. Top 10 in terms of giving up sacks, but we're so good rushing the football that they're a top 20 team running the football. So Wiley is going to go find another team, 2nd straight season. He's in the portal. The Bruins need an offensive line. You see Dante Moore. The Bruins might need to go after a quarterback if that's what they're intending, unless they want to live with Garbers and Schlee and bolster the offensive line to be a strength, both running the football and throwing the football. And then you see some skill guys. I think the Bruins can live without all these guys, Ryan, Brown, and Keegan Jones. They will be losses for one reason or another, even though the receiver room's pretty deep. Tough for Jones and Brown to break in there, and tough for Keegan Jones to break in the running back room when you had the Steels, you had the Hardens ready to break out. And then you had Carson Ryan, who I wish the Bruins used more of. And the last and most recent transfer, William Nimmo Jr., 6'1 safety. He's going to be a grad transfer. Played in 12 games, started against ASU. Didn't do a lot when it came to gaudy stats, but an overall 21 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. You've got the likes of 2 seniors in the secondary at safety between Kenny Churchwell, Jordan Anderson, graduating, running out of eligibility. I know the Bruins' top-rated recruit, if Christian Dunbar-Hawkins is going to stay at UCLA, there's been, wonders how many of these high school recruits might go elsewhere. One with the Chip Kelly kind of axe Chip Kelly rumors, the fire Chip Kelly rumors, saying, hey, he's on the hot seat. It's getting warmer. And then D'Anton Lynn leaving. And if you're a defensive player, then do you really want to try and figure out what scheme you're running after trying to figure it out after the last 3 years of UCLA recruiting this, and that? That's a dangerous thing. But the Bruins did offer TJ Crandall out of the likes of Colorado State, a young defensive back who was a true freshman in 2023 and overall could help grow the secondary room. But UCLA needs to get more safeties, grow and not be so young. I like Kamari Ramsey this year. I would just like UCLA to not be so thin overall defensively when you're trying to, 1, replace your defensive coordinator, which we'll talk about in a future episode, and then 2, try to replace the talent that is going to happen. Not because of a mass portal exodus, because guys might go test the NFL draft, or they might not want to go in the portal, but they might want to go say, hey, maybe undrafted free agents. Who knows? There's so many different ways that the defense could look, and there's just no replacing a Latu in my mind, who is just kind of the replacement, if you will, of Jalen Phillips from years prior, the reverse story. Guy medically retires, comes to UCLA, breaks out, and will be a top-tier first-round pick, and will hopefully blow up in the NFL for every good reason. Now, Crandall is one of those guys offered. He talked about he received an offer, tweeted about it, some decent peripheral stats when it comes to yards allowed when he was targeted, the completion percentage before him. And I know you all watched that Colorado State game, but Crandall finding a way to be a big, maybe a big portion if UCLA gets him to commit to becoming one of their newest secondary weapons for a defense that's hopefully revamped, whoever the defensive coordinator may be. But so far, that's the 2 few offers that are out there for UCLA. Numerous players available, very talented, but you've got to act quickly. Chip Kelly has got to work his portal magic, or else this will definitively be his last season at UCLA head coach. And we all disagree on when that should be, whether it's in the future, it's now, or 3 years in the past. There's no Bruin fan that thinks alike in terms of the Chip Kelly head coaching tenure. I just like a fun winning season the first year of Big Ten, and there's talent out there to fill the holes on this roster, I believe, to make it one that can win more than just a few games, as every beleaguered fan believes right now. There's so many questions, not a lot, but there are questions, even though I just said so many, there's so many questions out there for UCLA when it comes to the exterior. Roster-wise, you fill some holes, all of a sudden, this could be an interesting team next year. I'm not going to say they're going to go win college football playoff, because now there's other factors with defense, everything, right? But 6 players gone, and a couple of days with the portal officially being open. I wonder what it's going to look like after the bowl game, and I wonder what it's going to look like after spring practice. And then we'll find out after early signing day who's officially signing, who the Bruins get to commit early in the portal season, and hopefully no last-minute decommits from either side that ruins a recruiting class in the future. All right, that's it for Locked On UCLA today. Next, I'm going to look at more quarterback options. We're going to talk more UCLA hoops. And hey, let's talk more about who can fill in the defensive coordinator role that's vacant right now for UCLA and Chip Kelly. All right, hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.